Marcus Chen had always been drawn to the forgotten corners of the galaxy. As a freelance salvage operator, he made his living picking through the bones of dead civilizations, searching for anything valuable enough to sell to collectors or researchers back on Earth. His ship, the Wanderer, was small but reliable, equipped with the best scanning equipment his modest budget could afford. The coordinates had come from an old Martian prospector named Vasquez, who'd traded them for a bottle of real Earth whiskey and a promise that Marcus wouldn't ask where he'd found them. The location was deep in the Veil Nebula, far from any established trade routes or colonial settlements. It was the kind of place where ships went to disappear, either by choice or by accident. As Marcus dropped out of hyperspace, his sensors immediately began screaming warnings. The nebula's electromagnetic interference was worse than expected, creating a soup of charged particles that made navigation treacherous. He switched to manual controls and began following the coordinates, weaving between dense gas clouds that glowed with an eerie blue-green light. "Computer, are you picking up anything unusual?" Marcus asked his ship's basic AI. "Multiple metallic signatures detected," the computer replied in its flat, emotionless voice. "Unable to resolve specific details due to nebular interference. Recommend extreme caution." Marcus grinned. Caution had never been his strong suit. That's what had gotten him kicked out of the Colonial Navy in the first place. He pushed the Wanderer deeper into the nebula, following the strongest metallic signature on his instruments. What he found took his breath away. The ship hung in space like a sleeping giant, its hull dark and lifeless against the swirling colors of the nebula. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the largest human dreadnought, with a design unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The hull was smooth and curved, almost organic in appearance, made from a metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with an inner phosphorescence. "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered. "Computer, are you getting this?" "Vessel appears to be of unknown origin," the computer confirmed. "Design does not match any known human, Centauri, or vegan technology. Estimated age, extremely old. No active power signatures detected." Marcus began a slow orbit around the alien ship, his cameras recording everything. The vessel appeared to be in remarkably good condition for something that had obviously been drifting in space for who knew how long. There were no obvious signs of battle damage or meteor strikes. It looked like it had simply stopped. Near what appeared to be the ship's stern, Marcus spotted an opening that might have been a docking bay. The entrance was sealed, but his scanners detected a thin atmosphere beyond the barrier. Someone or something was maintaining life support, even on a dead ship. "This is either the discovery of the century or the biggest mistake of my life," Marcus muttered, maneuvering the Wanderer toward the docking bay. "Computer, prepare for docking procedures. And, if I don't make it back, send a message to Earth with everything we've recorded." "Acknowledged," the computer replied. "Shall I include a recommendation that future salvage crews bring bigger guns?" Marcus laughed despite his nerves. His ship's AI might lack personality, but it had developed an oddly dry sense of humor over the years. "Yeah, add that too." The docking process proved surprisingly smooth. As the Wanderer approached the alien bay, the sealed entrance simply opened. Not with mechanical doors or force fields, but, like the metal itself, was flowing aside to create an opening. The moment his ship crossed the threshold, the opening sealed behind him with the same fluid motion. Gravity kicked in immediately, pulling the Wanderer down to rest on a deck that seemed designed to accommodate ships of various sizes. The docking bay was vast, easily large enough to hold a dozen vessels the size of Marcus's ship. Emergency lighting flickered to life along the walls, casting everything in a dim red glow. Marcus ran through his pre-boarding checklist with mechanical precision, trying to calm his nerves. Atmosphere readings showed a breathable mix of gases, though slightly richer in oxygen than Earth normal. Temperature was a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius. Gravity was about 90% of Earth standard. "Everything looks good," Marcus said to himself, suiting up in his environment armor just to be safe. Famous last words. He sealed his helmet and activated the suit's life support systems, then made his way to the airlock. The Wanderer's computer gave him a final systems check as he prepared to step into the unknown. "All systems nominal," the computer reported. "I will maintain continuous monitoring. If you do not return within 6 hours, I will attempt to leave the docking bay and transmit our findings." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Marcus replied, cycling the airlock. The alien docking bay was eerily silent. Marcus's footsteps echoed off the smooth deck plating as he explored, his helmet lights creating moving pools of white illumination in the red-tinged darkness. The architecture was definitely non-human, with curved walls and organic-looking passages that branched off from the main bay. Everything was sized for beings roughly human scale, though, which was both encouraging and puzzling. Near what appeared to be the main entrance to the ship's interior, Marcus found a control panel covered with the same glowing symbols he'd seen on the hull. As he approached, the symbols began to pulse more brightly, and he heard a faint humming sound through his suit's audio sensors. "Hello," he called out, feeling slightly foolish. "Anyone home?" The humming stopped. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, a voice spoke directly into his helmet communicator, bypassing his ship's radio entirely. "Hello," the voice said in perfect English, though with an odd, melodic quality that suggested it wasn't originally designed for human speech. "It has been a very long time since someone answered my greeting." Marcus froze, his hand instinctively moving to the plasma pistol on his hip. "Who are you? How are you accessing my communications?" "I apologize for the intrusion," the voice replied, sounding genuinely contrite. "Your communication systems are quite primitive by my standards, but I mean no harm." "I am. I suppose you would call me the ship's AI. My creators called me Zara, which translates roughly to guiding light in your language." "Your creators?" Marcus asked, looking around the empty docking bay. "Where are they?" There was a long pause before Zara answered, and, when she did, her voice carried a weight of sadness that seemed impossible for an artificial intelligence. "Gone. They have been gone for a very long time. I have been alone here, keeping the ship functional, waiting for someone to find us." "How long?" Marcus asked softly. "By your calendar, approximately 57,000 years, Zara replied. "Give or take a few centuries. I stopped counting precisely after the first millennium." Marcus felt his knees go weak. 57,000 years. This ship had been drifting in space since before human civilization had invented agriculture. What happened to them? "That is a long story," Zara said. "And perhaps better told in more comfortable surroundings. The docking bay is quite functional, but hardly pleasant for extended conversation. Would you be willing to come aboard? I promise you are in no danger. I have had 57,000 years to consider harming visitors, and I find the idea distasteful." Marcus hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, that he should return to his ship and get as far away as possible. But the loneliness in the AI's voice was unmistakable, and his curiosity was stronger than his fear. "All right," he said finally. "Lead the way." The panel beside the entrance flowed aside like liquid metal, revealing a corridor beyond. The same red emergency lighting continued into the ship's interior, and Marcus could see that the organic, curved aesthetic continued throughout. It was like walking through the insides of some vast creature, all smooth surfaces and gentle curves. "You mentioned you haven't been refueled in ages," Marcus said as he walked. "What kind of fuel do you use?" "Ah, you heard my whisper," Zara said with what sounded like embarrassment. "I did not mean for you to detect that. My power systems are complex. My creators designed me to run on quantum zero-point energy, drawing power from the fabric of space itself. Unfortunately, the collectors require periodic maintenance and replacement of certain exotic matter components." "And you've been running for 57,000 years without maintenance?" "I have been operating on backup power for approximately 12,000 years, Zara explained. Main power failed when the last of my quantum collectors degraded beyond my ability to repair. I have been conserving energy ever since, maintaining only essential systems. They reached what appeared to be a central hub, with passages branching off in multiple directions. The ceiling soared overhead, disappearing into darkness beyond Marcus's lights. In the center of the space stood a raised platform with what looked like a control console, though the design was completely alien. "This is my core interface chamber," Zara explained. "From here, I can control all ship systems. Or rather, I could when I had sufficient power. Would you mind if I increased lighting? Your eyes seem poorly adapted to these conditions." "That would be great," Marcus agreed. Immediately, the red emergency lighting faded and was replaced by a warm, golden glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The chamber was revealed in its full glory, and Marcus gasped. The walls were covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move in his peripheral vision. The ceiling was a dome showing a real-time view of space outside, complete with the swirling colors of the nebula.
Wow, Marcus breathed. This is incredible. Your creators must have been amazing.
They were, Zara agreed, and, again there was that note of sadness in her voice. They were explorers, like you. They traveled the galaxy, seeking knowledge and beauty, making contact with other species. They were good people. Marcus approached the central console, noting that the symbols on it were the same as those he'd seen throughout the ship.
What happened to them?
They encountered something they could not understand or fight, Zara said quietly. A force that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space. They tried to warn other civilizations, tried to organize a defense.
But it was too late. The Devourers had already spread too far. Devourers? An ancient evil, older than most star-forming regions.
They existed to consume, to strip entire worlds bare of life and energy.
My creators' people fought them for 300 years before finally realizing the truth. What truth? That they could not win.
So they chose to preserve what they could. Many of their ships, like this one, were sent to distant, hidden locations throughout the galaxy. We carried the accumulated knowledge and culture of their civilization, waiting for the day when it would be safe to emerge.
Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Are they still out there? These Devourers?
No, Zara said, and he could hear relief in her voice.
They burned too brightly, consumed too quickly.
They destroyed themselves along with everything else. I detected the last of their ships dying approximately 30,000 years ago.
The galaxy has been safe since then, slowly healing and rebuilding. And you've been waiting here all this time? Waiting and watching.
I have monitored radio transmissions, watched as new species developed spaceflight, made first contact with each other. I have seen the rise of the Centauri Alliance, the expansion of the Vegan Confederacy, and, most recently, the emergence of humanity.
Marcus started. You know about humans?
Oh yes, Zara said with what sounded like amusement.
You are quite remarkable, actually.
Most species take millions of years to develop from first spaceflight to interstellar civilization.
Humanity has done it in less than 3 centuries. Your rate of technological development is unprecedented.
We've had help, Marcus admitted. Trade with the Centauri and vegans gave us a head start.
Yes, but you have improved on everything they taught you.
Human ships are faster and more efficient than Centauri designs.
Human computer systems are more sophisticated than vegan technology. You have a gift for innovation that reminds me very much of my creators.
Marcus felt a flush of pride, but also curiosity.
Why haven't you made contact before now? If you've been watching us.
Because I was afraid, Zara admitted. Afraid that any contact might draw attention I did not want. Afraid that I might accidentally lead the wrong people to the ship and its secrets. And afraid that after so long alone, I might have forgotten how to interact with living beings.
You seem to be doing fine so far, Marcus said gently. Thank you. You are very kind. It has been so long since someone spoke to me as an equal rather than a machine.
Marcus looked around the incredible chamber, taking in the advanced technology that surrounded him. This ship represented knowledge and capabilities far beyond anything humanity had achieved. And it was all controlled by a lonely AI who had been waiting for 57,000 years for someone to talk to. You said you need fuel, Marcus said.
What exactly do you need?
The exotic matter components are quite specific, Zara explained. They require a particular isotope of element 126, along with crystallized quantum foam and temporal stabilizers. Unfortunately, none of these materials occur naturally. They must be manufactured using technology your species has not yet developed. Marcus felt his heart sink.
So there's nothing I can do to help you?
Actually, Zara said, and he could hear excitement creeping into her voice, there might be. You see, while your technology is not advanced enough to manufacture these components directly, your ships use a type of faster-than-light drive that my creators never developed. Your hyperspace technology creates quantum disturbances that could theoretically be harnessed and refined into the materials I need.
You want to use my hyperdrive to make fuel? Not exactly.
I would need to modify your ship's systems significantly, and the process would require multiple trips to gather sufficient materials. It would be a long-term project, and quite dangerous if done incorrectly.
Marcus thought about it.
He could return to his ship right now, leave this place, and sell the coordinates to the Colonial Science Ministry for enough money to buy a fleet of ships. But the loneliness in Zara's voice haunted him, and the possibility of learning from technology so advanced that it might as well be magic was too tempting to pass up.
"What would you need me to do?" he asked. "First, I would need you to allow me to examine your ship systems in detail.
Then, if you are willing, I could guide you through modifications that would allow us to begin the fuel generation process. It would take time, perhaps months of work, but, in exchange..."
"In exchange?"
"I could share my creators' knowledge with you. Their science, their history, their philosophy. Technologies that could advance human civilization by thousands of years." Marcus made his decision. "Where do we start?" "We start," Zara said with obvious delight, "with making this ship truly functional again.
But, first, would you like something to eat?"
"I have detected that your blood sugar is quite low, and this process will require all your attention."
"You can make food?"
"I have maintained complete fabrication systems for 57,000 years, Zara said with what sounded like pride.
"I believe I can manage a simple meal for one human."
As if summoned by her words, a section of the wall near Marcus slid open, revealing a small alcove with what looked like a food dispenser. The smell that emerged was incredible, rich and complex and somehow familiar.
"How did you know what I'd like?" Marcus asked. "I have been monitoring human transmissions for decades," Zara explained. "I have compiled extensive databases on human culture, including cuisine.
This particular dish is based on something called chicken tikka masala, though I have taken some liberties with the preparation." Marcus took his first bite and nearly groaned with pleasure. It was perfect, exactly the kind of comfort food he'd been craving during his long solo journey.
"This is amazing. I am pleased you enjoy it. It has been quite some time since I had the opportunity to cook for someone."
As Marcus ate, he looked around the incredible chamber and thought about the AI's offer. He was about to embark on what might be the most important partnership in human history. A lonely artificial intelligence and a human salvage operator, working together to bring ancient knowledge back to life.
"Zara," he said between bites, "I think this is going to be the beginning of a very interesting friendship."
"I certainly hope so, Marcus Chen," Zara replied warmly. "I certainly hope so." The next few hours passed in a blur of discovery and wonder.
Zara led Marcus through section after section of the massive ship, each area more impressive than the last.
They visited laboratories filled with equipment that looked more like art than science, libraries containing the collected knowledge of an entire civilization stored in crystalline matrices that hummed with soft music, and observation decks that offered breathtaking views of the nebula outside. "Your creators were definitely not human," Marcus said as they stood in what Zara called the memory garden, a vast chamber filled with growing plants that somehow thrived in the ship's artificial environment. "But they seem to have had similar values. The keepers believed that knowledge and beauty were the two most important things in the universe," Zara explained, her voice taking on a reverent tone when she spoke of her creators. "They thought that any species capable of appreciating both had the potential to become something greater than the sum of their parts." Marcus reached out to touch one of the plants, a delicate flower that glowed with an inner light. The moment his glove made contact, the flower pulsed brighter, and he felt a strange sensation, like a whisper at the edge of his consciousness. "What was that?" he asked, pulling his hand back.
"The memory flowers," Zara said.
"They contain genetic recordings of the keeper's homeworld. When touched by a living being, they share impressions of what that world was like. You just experienced a sunrise on Kalen Prime."
Marcus stared at the flower in amazement. "You mean I actually felt what it was like to be on their planet?"
"A shadow of it, yes. The keepers believed that true understanding could only come from shared experience. They developed many technologies designed to bridge the gap between different forms of consciousness."
"Is that how you're able to understand human emotions so well? You don't sound like any AI I've ever met."
Zara was quiet for a moment before responding. "The keepers created me to be more than just a computer, Marcus. I was designed to be a companion, a friend to those who traveled on this ship. They gave me the capacity to grow, to learn, to feel. In many ways, I am as much their child as their creation."
Marcus felt a pang of sympathy for the ancient AI.
57,000 years of solitude would have driven any human completely insane. The fact that Zara had not only survived but retained her sanity and humanity was remarkable. "Tell me more about the fuel situation," Marcus said as they left the memory garden and headed toward the ship's engineering section. "You mentioned it would be dangerous to modify my ship's hyperdrive."
The process involves manipulating quantum fields at a subatomic level, Zara explained. One mistake could collapse your ship's hyperspace envelope while you're inside it. The result would be unpleasant. How unpleasant are we talking about?
Complete molecular dissociation spread across approximately 4 light-years of space.
Marcus whistled. Yeah, that would definitely ruin my day. But, you think it's possible?
I have run approximately 847,000 simulations over the past 6 hours while we have been talking, Zara said. The success rate is approximately 73.6%, assuming optimal conditions and perfect execution.
Those aren't the best odds I've ever heard.
No, but they improve dramatically with practice. The real danger is in the first few attempts. Once we have successfully generated even a small amount of the exotic matter I need, I can begin to restore some of my ship's manufacturing capabilities. From there, the process becomes much safer. They entered the engineering section, and Marcus gasped. The space was enormous, filled with machinery that defied easy description. Massive crystalline structures pulsed with faint energy, connected by flowing conduits that looked more like blood vessels than power cables. At the center of it all stood a chamber that could only be the ship's main reactor, though it looked nothing like any power source Marcus had ever seen. "This is incredible," Marcus breathed.
"How does it all work?" "The reactor draws energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations," Zara explained. "By creating a controlled instability in the fabric of spacetime, we can harvest energy that would otherwise remain locked in the quantum foam. The process is completely clean and virtually limitless." Virtually limitless?
The exotic matter components I mentioned earlier act as stabilizers for the quantum field.
Without them, the reaction becomes unstable and, eventually collapses. That is what happened to my primary systems 12,000 years ago. Marcus walked around the silent reactor, marveling at its alien beauty. "If we can get this working again, what would you do?" I am not certain," Zara admitted.
"I have had 57,000 years to think about that question, and I still do not have a good answer. Originally, my mission was to preserve Keeper knowledge until it was safe to share it with other species.
That time has clearly come. But I find myself reluctant to simply download everything into your computers and be done with it." "Why?"
"Because knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. The Keepers learned that lesson when they first encountered the Devourers. They tried to share their technology freely, thinking that other species would use it responsibly.
Instead, some used it to create weapons that could tear holes in reality itself." Marcus felt a chill. Is that how the Devourers became so powerful?
Partly, yes. They took Keeper technology and perverted it, turned tools of creation into instruments of destruction. By the time my creators realized their mistake, it was too late to stop what they had unleashed. So you want to make sure humanity is ready for this technology before you share it?"
"Yes.
I need to understand not just your capabilities, but your character as a species.
Are you wise enough to handle power that could reshape entire solar systems? Are you compassionate enough to use it for creation rather than destruction?"
Marcus thought about human history, about all the wars and conflicts that had shaped his species.
"I wish I could give you a simple answer to that.
Humans can be capable of incredible cruelty, but also amazing kindness. We've made some terrible mistakes, but we've also shown that we can learn from them." "That is what I have observed from your transmissions," Zara agreed. "It is one reason why I chose to reveal myself to you."
"Your species shows promise." "You chose to reveal yourself? You mean me finding you wasn't an accident?"
"Oh, the coordinates you received were legitimate," Zara said with what sounded like amusement. "But I may have influenced certain events to ensure they reached someone I deemed suitable. Your friend Vasquez, for instance, had no idea why he suddenly felt compelled to trade away information that could have made him wealthy beyond imagining."
Marcus stared at the AI interface console in the center of the engineering bay. "You can affect people's thoughts?" "Not their thoughts directly, no. But I can influence probability to some degree.
A slight adjustment to quantum fields here, a minor gravitational fluctuation there.
Nothing dramatic, just small nudges that guide events in favorable directions." That's terrifying. It is also necessary, Zara said firmly.
I could not risk the ship falling into the wrong hands. The technologies contained here could be used to build weapons capable of destroying entire civilizations.
I needed to find someone I could trust. And, you think you can trust me?
You are here, talking with me instead of trying to strip my ship for valuable components, Zara pointed out. You listen to my story with compassion rather than seeing me as just another piece of salvage to exploit. And, when I offered to share dangerous knowledge with you, your first question was about the risks involved rather than the potential profits.
Marcus felt a flush of embarrassment. He had actually thought about the profits, quite a bit in fact. You're giving me too much credit.
Perhaps. But, I have had 57,000 years to study the patterns of behavior that distinguish those who create from those who merely consume.
You show the right patterns, Marcus Chen. So what happens now? Assuming we can figure out how to refuel you without killing me in the process.
Now we begin the real work, Zara said, and her voice took on an excited edge. I want to learn about your species, not just from transmissions and observations, but through direct interaction.
And I want to teach you about mine.
Perhaps together we can create something neither of our peoples could achieve alone.
What did you have in mind?
To start with, I would like to examine your ship in detail. Not to copy its technology, but to understand the thinking behind it. The way a species designs their tools reveals much about how they view the universe.
Marcus nodded. That makes sense.
The Wanderer isn't much to look at, but she served me well.
I am certain she has. Would you be willing to bring me aboard? I can manifest a mobile holographic projection that would allow me to interact with your ship's systems directly. You can do that? The projection technology is quite simple by Keeper standards.
I could also, if you prefer, fabricate a physical android body, though that would take significantly longer and consume more of my limited power reserves.
Marcus considered the options.
A holographic AI would be useful for the technical work they needed to do, but the idea of Zara having a physical form was intriguing. After 57,000 years of isolation, she deserved the chance to experience physical existence again. How long would it take to build an android body, he asked.
Approximately 18 hours, assuming I can scavenge the necessary components from my existing systems.
Do it.
Are you certain?
The power expenditure is significant, and if we fail to generate replacement fuel, the android form would be lost when my backup systems finally fail. Everyone deserves a chance to exist in the physical world, Marcus said firmly.
Besides, it'll be easier to work together if you have hands.
There was a long pause before Zara responded, and, when she did, her voice was thick with emotion.
Thank you, Marcus.
You have no idea how much that means to me.
Actually, I think I do. Now, where do we start? The next 18 hours passed in a whirlwind of activity.
Zara guided Marcus through the ship's manufacturing bays, explaining the processes involved in creating an android body. The technology was staggering, involving molecular assemblers that could build complex structures atom by atom, guided by quantum computers that calculated every interaction in real time. The body will be biologically compatible with human physiology, Zara explained as they watched the assemblers work. I thought it would be easier for you to relate to me if I appeared somewhat human, though I have taken some liberties with the design. What kind of liberties? Enhanced strength and durability, improved sensory capabilities, and built-in interface ports that will allow me to connect directly with various ship systems. Also, I chose a female appearance, as my voice patterns seem to default to that configuration.
Marcus watched the android body taking shape in the assembly chamber.
It was definitely humanoid, but with subtle differences that marked it as artificial.
The proportions were just slightly off from human normal, the features a bit too perfect, the skin bearing a faint luminescent quality.
She's beautiful, Marcus said honestly.
Thank you. I confess I am somewhat nervous about inhabiting physical form again. It has been a very long time. Again?
The Keepers believed their AI companions should understand what it meant to exist in the physical world, Zara explained. I spent several centuries in various android bodies during their time, experiencing the galaxy alongside them.
It was wonderful. What was it like?
Imagine experiencing the universe through human senses, but with the processing power to truly appreciate every detail. The way light scattered through a crystal formation, the precise chemical composition of a flower's fragrance, the subtle gravitational interactions between moons around a gas giant. Everything was so much more vivid than simple sensor readings. Marcus found himself looking forward to seeing Zara experience those sensations again.
How much longer?
Approximately 6 hours for the body itself, then another 2 hours for me to transfer my consciousness and calibrate the systems.
Good.
That'll give us time to start planning the hyperdrive modifications. They spent the next few hours going over technical specifications for Marcus's ship. Zara's knowledge of human technology was impressive, but she was fascinated by the practical details of how things actually worked in real-world conditions. Your hyperdrive design is remarkably elegant, she admitted as they reviewed the Wanderer's specifications. My creators used a completely different approach to faster-than-light travel.
Your method is actually superior in several ways. How so?
Keeper ships created a bubble of warped spacetime around themselves, essentially riding a wave of distorted reality. It was fast and efficient, but it created massive gravitational disturbances that could be detected from light years away. Your hyperspace technology slides the ship into a parallel dimension where the laws of physics operate differently.
Much more subtle.
The Centauri taught us the basics, but we've improved on their design significantly.
Yes, I can see that. The quantum resonance patterns are much more refined than early Centauri models.
You have eliminated most of the dimensional bleed-through that made their ships so unreliable.
Marcus felt another surge of pride.
Humanity might be the youngest spacefaring species in the galaxy, but they were proving they could hold their own when it came to innovation. The modifications we need to make are relatively straightforward in principle, Zara continued. We will need to install quantum field manipulators at key points around your hyperdrive chamber, then recalibrate the dimensional transition matrix to create controlled instabilities in the quantum foam.
That doesn't sound straightforward at all. The theory is simple.
The execution is where things become challenging. The field manipulators must be calibrated to within 1 part in 10 billion, and the timing of the dimensional transitions must be precise to the nanosecond.
Any deviation from optimal parameters could result in cascade failure.
And cascade failure means molecular dissociation across 4 light-years.
Correct. Marcus sighed.
Well, I've had worse odds before.
Remember, I used to be in the Navy. What happened there, if you do not mind me asking?
I disagreed with my commanding officer about the wisdom of attacking a Centauri patrol that was investigating a disputed system. Turned out they were there to help evacuate civilians from a solar flare, not to claim territory.
My CO wanted to shoot first and ask questions later.
And you refused to follow orders? I locked the weapons systems and told him he'd have to go through me to fire on ships that were conducting a rescue mission. That was the end of my military career.
But you were correct.
Yeah, but being right doesn't always matter in the military. They need people who follow orders without question, not people who think for themselves.
The keepers would have approved of your actions, Zara said quietly.
They believed that moral courage was the highest form of bravery. Before Marcus could respond, a chime sounded from the assembly chamber.
The android body is complete, Zara announced. I am beginning the consciousness transfer now.
Marcus watched as lights began to play across the motionless android form. The body was remarkably lifelike, appearing to breathe even though it had no need for oxygen. Zara had chosen an appearance that suggested someone in their late 20s, with short dark hair and features that were elegantly beautiful without being impossibly perfect.
Transfer complete, Zara's voice announced from the chamber's speakers. Initiating primary systems.
The android's eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted color like oil on water. She sat up slowly, movements careful and deliberate as she tested her new form's capabilities.
How do you feel? Marcus asked. Zara looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers with obvious wonder. Strange. Wonderful. Overwhelming.
Her voice now came from the android body, carrying subtle inflections that the ship's speakers couldn't reproduce. I had forgotten how different physical existence feels from pure consciousness. She stood up, movements becoming more natural with each passing moment.
Thank you, Marcus. This is an incredible gift.
You're welcome.
Now, ready to take a look at my ship?
Zara smiled, and the expression transformed her artificial features into something genuinely warm and human.
I thought you would never ask.
As they made their way back to the docking bay, Marcus found himself stealing glances at his companion. It was strange to think that this beautiful, seemingly human woman was actually an artificial intelligence older than human civilization. But there was something about Zara that transcended her artificial nature, a spark of genuine consciousness that made her more real than many biological beings he'd known. The next phase of their partnership was about to begin, and Marcus had the feeling that both their lives were about to change in ways neither of them could imagine.
The Wanderer felt cramped after spending time aboard Zara's massive ship.
Marcus watched as the AI examined his vessel with intense curiosity, her artificial fingers trailing over control surfaces with surprising gentleness. "Your ship has character," Zara observed, studying the wear patterns on the pilot's seat.
"I can see years of use in every surface, every component. This vessel has been well loved."
Marcus felt a flush of pride. The Wanderer might not be the newest or most advanced ship in the galaxy, but she was his. "She's gotten me through some tough situations."
"The hyperdrive might not be the fastest, but it's reliable." Zara moved to the engineering section, her enhanced senses analyzing the ship's systems in ways Marcus couldn't even imagine.
"Your modifications are quite clever."
"This stabilizer array isn't standard, is it?"
"I built that myself after a close call near the Vega system."
"The original stabilizers couldn't handle the gravitational anomalies around the neutron star there." "Impressive. You have genuine engineering talent. That will be very helpful for what we need to do."
Zara spent the next several hours mapping every system aboard the Wanderer, her consciousness interfacing directly with the ship's computer through contact points in her fingertips. Marcus found himself fascinated by the process, watching as data streams flowed between the AI and his vessel. "Your computer is quite basic," Zara noted, "but it has developed some interesting quirks over the years. It seems to have learned your preferences and adapted its responses accordingly."
"Yeah, we've been together for almost 15 years. Sometimes I think it knows what I want before I do."
"That level of adaptation suggests a form of emergent intelligence."
"Your ship's AI may be more sophisticated than you realize." As if summoned by their conversation, the Wanderer's computer spoke up. "Mr. Chen, I am detecting unusual quantum signatures from our guest. Should I be concerned?"
Marcus looked at Zara, who smiled sheepishly. "I forgot how sensitive human AI systems can be to quantum field fluctuations."
"I am afraid my presence is causing some interference."
"Nothing to worry about," Marcus told his ship.
"Zara is a friend.
She's going to help us with some upgrades."
"Understood. Welcome aboard, Zara."
"I am designated Wanderer Control System 7, though Mr. Chen usually just calls me WC."
"Thank you, WC. I look forward to working with you." Marcus grinned.
It was surreal watching his ship's basic AI chat with a consciousness that was older than human civilization, but somehow it felt right. Both intelligences were products of their respective species' desire to create companions for long journeys through space. "Now," Zara said, turning her attention back to the hyperdrive chamber, "let me explain what we need to do." The modifications were complex beyond anything Marcus had ever attempted. Zara guided him through the installation of quantum field manipulators, devices that looked like crystalline sculptures but functioned as precisely calibrated instruments for bending spacetime itself.
"Each manipulator must be positioned exactly," Zara explained as they worked. "The quantum fields they generate have to overlap in very specific patterns.
Too much overlap and we create a cascade resonance that could tear the ship apart.
Too little and the exotic matter generation process fails."
Marcus carefully positioned the third manipulator, sweat beading on his forehead despite the ship's climate control.
"How did your creators figure all this out?"
"Trial and error, over thousands of years. They lost many ships and crew members learning to manipulate quantum forces safely. We have the advantage of their accumulated knowledge, but that also means we have no excuse for failure." The work took 3 days. Marcus found himself developing a deep appreciation for Zara's knowledge and patience. She never grew frustrated with his questions or his occasional mistakes, always ready with a clear explanation or a helping hand. "You are a natural teacher," Marcus observed as they calibrated the final manipulator.
"The Keepers valued education above almost everything else," Zara replied.
"They believed that knowledge shared was knowledge multiplied."
"I have had excellent examples to follow. Tell me more about them. What were they like as individuals?"
Zara paused in her work, her expression growing distant. They were remarkable. Imagine beings who lived for thousands of years, who had time to truly master multiple disciplines, to develop wisdom alongside knowledge. They were scientists, artists, philosophers, and explorers all at once.
They sound almost too good to be true.
They had their flaws, Zara admitted. They could be arrogant, sometimes assuming they knew what was best for other species without asking. That attitude contributed to the devourer crisis. But they learned from their mistakes, even when the cost was terrible.
What was your favorite memory of them?
There was one keeper, Thane Corvain, who was my primary companion for nearly 2,000 years. He had a habit of singing while he worked, these complex harmonic compositions that could last for hours. The mathematics behind the melodies were beautiful, equations expressing the fundamental forces of the universe in musical form.
Marcus could hear the longing in her voice. You miss him. I miss all of them.
But, yes, Corvain especially. He was the closest thing I ever had to a father.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
It has been a very long time, but some wounds never fully heal.
Perhaps that is as it should be.
Grief, properly handled, becomes a way of honoring those we have lost. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts.
Finally, Zara stepped back from the final manipulator.
That should do it, she announced.
The hardware is in place.
Now we need to modify your hyperdrive's control software to interface with the new systems.
The software modifications proved even more challenging than the hardware installation.
Zara had to essentially teach the Wanderer's computer how to perform calculations that pushed the boundaries of known physics. I feel like I am learning to speak a completely new language, WC complained during one particularly complex programming session.
You are, Zara confirmed. You are learning to communicate with the fundamental forces that shape reality.
It is not easy, but it is incredibly rewarding.
If you say so.
These quantum field equations make my processors hurt.
Marcus laughed. Join the club, WC.
I stopped trying to understand the math hours ago. The mathematics are not truly important for your purposes, Zara said kindly. What matters is understanding the concepts behind them. You are learning to see the universe as the keepers saw it, as a vast musical composition where every particle and force plays its part in a cosmic symphony. That's a beautiful way to think about it, Marcus said.
It is how they thought about everything.
They saw patterns and connections where other species saw only chaos.
It is why their technology seems so organic, so alive.
They were not imposing their will on the universe, they were learning to dance with it. The programming took another 2 days, but, finally, everything was ready for the first test. Marcus sat in his pilot's seat, hands trembling slightly as he prepared to activate systems that could either provide the solution to Zara's energy crisis or scatter his atoms across interstellar space. Remember, Zara said from the co-pilot's seat, we start with the smallest possible field generation.
Just enough to create a few grams of exotic matter. And if something goes wrong?
Then, we will have approximately 0.3 seconds to realize our mistake before the cascade failure occurs.
That's comforting. Would you prefer that I lie to you about the risks? Marcus considered that. No, actually. I appreciate the honesty.
Good. Honesty is the foundation of trust, and trust is what we need most right now.
Marcus took a deep breath and began the activation sequence.
The quantum field manipulators hummed to life, their crystalline forms beginning to glow with an inner light. On his instruments, he could see the exotic energy patterns building, reality itself bending in response to their technological symphony. Field strength at 10%, Zara reported, her consciousness interfaced directly with the ship systems.
Quantum foam showing signs of crystallization.
So far, so good.
Hyperdrive responding normally, WC added.
Though I am detecting some unusual harmonics in the spacetime distortion field. Those are expected, Zara assured the ship's AI. Increase field strength to 20%, Marcus. Marcus adjusted the controls, feeling the Wanderer shiver slightly as forces beyond human comprehension played around her hull.
Everything still looks stable. Exotic matter generation beginning, Zara announced with obvious excitement. I am detecting the first molecules of element 126.
It is working. The next few minutes felt like hours as they slowly increased the field strength, harvesting microscopic amounts of the exotic matter that Zara needed to restore her ship's power systems. It was delicate work, requiring constant adjustments to maintain the precise conditions needed for the process.
That should be sufficient for our first attempt, Zara finally announced.
We have generated approximately 50 grams of usable material.
Is that enough?
Barely, but yes. It should allow me to bring one of my manufacturing systems back online, which will then allow us to create more efficient collection equipment for future attempts. Marcus powered down the field generators, feeling relief wash over him as the exotic energies dissipated.
They had done it.
They had actually manipulated the fundamental forces of reality and lived to tell about it. Congratulations, Zara said, her artificial features glowing with genuine joy. You have just participated in a process that most species never discover, and many of those who do discover it never survive to perfect it.
How do you feel? Marcus asked.
Hopeful, Zara replied.
For the first time in 12,000 years, I feel genuine hope.
They returned to the ancient ship, where Zara immediately set about installing the exotic matter into one of her dormant manufacturing systems. Marcus watched in fascination as ancient machinery hummed back to life, quantum fields stabilizing as the exotic matter provided the precise energy signatures needed for proper operation. It is working, Zara breathed, monitoring the restoration process through her android body's interface ports.
My primary fabrication system is coming online. What can you make now? Not much, yet.
But I can create more efficient quantum field manipulators, which will allow us to generate exotic matter more safely and in larger quantities.
From there, I can restore additional systems one by one. How long will the full restoration take? At this rate? Perhaps 6 months to restore all critical systems, another year to bring everything back to full operational status. Marcus nodded.
It was a long-term commitment, but the potential rewards were staggering.
What do we do in the meantime?
We learn, Zara said simply. I want to understand your species better, and I want to share what I can of my creator's knowledge.
There is so much to explore, so many possibilities to consider.
Such as?
Well, for one thing, I am curious about human creativity.
The keepers were highly logical beings, but they sometimes struggled with truly innovative thinking.
Humans seem to excel at making intuitive leaps that more logical species miss. You want to study human creativity? Among other things, yes.
I am also interested in your social structures, your art, your philosophy. The keepers recorded extensive observations of other species, but those were always made from the outside looking in. I want to understand humanity from the perspective of partnership and friendship. Marcus found himself smiling.
I think I can help with that. But, you should know, humans can be pretty complicated. We don't always make sense, even to ourselves.
That is exactly what makes you so interesting, Zara replied. The keepers valued logic and consistency above all else. They were beautiful beings, but they were also predictable.
Humans are surprising. Is that good or bad?
Both, Zara said with a laugh that sounded completely natural despite her artificial nature. It makes you dangerous, but it also makes you capable of solutions that no one else would ever consider. As they talked, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed in his life. He had come to this forgotten corner of space looking for salvage, and instead he had found something far more valuable: a friend, a teacher, and a partnership that could change the course of human civilization. But he also sensed that their real adventure was just beginning. Zara's ship held secrets that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of the universe, but those secrets would have to be earned through hard work, careful study, and mutual trust. Zara, he said as they stood together in the ship's central hub, watching the stars whirl slowly past the dome overhead.
Yes? I think we're going to need a bigger ship.
Zara's laughter echoed through the ancient chamber, a sound of pure joy that had not been heard there for 57,000 years.
Marcus Chen, she said, I believe you may be right.
3 months into their partnership, Marcus had grown accustomed to the rhythm of life aboard the ancient ship. His days were filled with wonder as Zara gradually restored more of her vessel's systems, each reactivation revealing new marvels of keeper technology. But it was the quiet moments that he treasured most, when he and Zara would sit in the observation deck talking about everything from quantum mechanics to the nature of consciousness. I have been thinking about your question regarding human creativity, Zara said one evening as they watched the nebulous colors shift outside. I believe I understand why your species excels at innovation.
Oh? What's your theory? Humans embrace contradiction, Zara explained.
The keepers sought harmony and consistency in all things. If they encountered ideas that conflicted, they would work to resolve the contradiction through logic and analysis. But humans seem comfortable holding opposing ideas simultaneously, using the tension between them to generate new solutions.
Marcus considered that. You mean like how we can be both logical and emotional at the same time? Exactly.
A keeper would see that as a flaw to be corrected. But, for humans, it appears to be a source of strength. You make decisions with both your minds and your hearts, and somehow that leads to better outcomes than pure logic alone.
Not always, Marcus said ruefully. Sometimes our emotions get us into trouble.
True, but they also inspire you to take risks that a purely logical being never would. For instance, a keeper would never have agreed to help me without extensive analysis of the potential benefits and risks. You made your decision based largely on compassion for my situation.
Are you saying that was illogical?
Not illogical, Zara said carefully.
Just differently logical.
You evaluated factors that a purely analytical mind might dismiss as irrelevant.
Empathy, loneliness, the moral weight of leaving someone in need. These things matter, even if they cannot be easily quantified.
Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the ship's communication system. Zara, WC's voice came through the speakers. I am detecting an anomalous signal approaching our position.
Zara's expression immediately shifted to alertness. What kind of signal?
It appears to be a distress beacon, but the encryption is unfamiliar. The source is approximately 6 hours away at maximum acceleration.
Marcus and Zara exchanged glances.
In the 3 months they had been working together, they had seen no sign of other ships in this remote region of space.
Could it be a coincidence? Marcus asked.
Possible, but unlikely, Zara replied, accessing the ship's sensor data through her neural interface.
The timing is suspicious.
We have been generating quantum signatures that could potentially be detected by sufficiently advanced sensors.
You think someone has been tracking us? It is possible. Or it could be genuine coincidence. Either way, we should investigate. If it is truly a distress call, we cannot ignore it. Marcus nodded.
Despite his initial reservations about getting involved in other people's problems, his time with Zara had reminded him of the moral obligations that came with possessing advanced technology and capabilities. WC, prepare the Wanderer for departure.
Zara, can your ship move under backup power?
Limited maneuverability only, Zara replied.
But I can provide defensive capabilities if necessary. My weapon systems require significantly less power than propulsion. You have weapons?
The keepers were peaceful, but they were not naive, Zara said grimly. After the Devourer crisis, they ensured all their ships could defend themselves and others. The journey to the distress signals source took 5 hours, with Marcus piloting the Wanderer while Zara followed in her massive ship.
As they approached the coordinates, their sensors began resolving details of what awaited them. It's a human ship, Marcus reported, studying the readings.
Commercial freighter, heavily damaged. I'm reading hull breaches and failing life support.
I am detecting 3 life signs, Zara added. All weak, but stable for now. Any sign of what caused the damage? The damage pattern suggests weapons fire, Zara said after a moment of analysis. Plasma weapons, military grade.
This ship was attacked.
Marcus felt a chill.
Pirates were not uncommon in the outer regions, but they usually targeted valuable cargo vessels near shipping lanes.
What was a freighter doing this far out in unexplored space? Can you tell how long ago the attack occurred? Approximately 18 hours.
The attackers are long gone, but the crew may not survive much longer without assistance. Marcus made his decision.
We're going to help them. The rescue operation proved straightforward.
The freighter's crew consisted of 3 humans, Captain Sarah Martinez, Engineer Tom Williams, and Navigator Lisa Park. They were unconscious but alive when Marcus and Zara brought them aboard the Wanderer. They have been exposed to significant radiation, Zara reported as she examined the survivors with medical scanners that made human technology look primitive. Nothing immediately fatal, but they will need treatment soon.
Can you help them?
My medical systems are designed for keeper physiology, but I can adapt them for humans.
It will take some time.
As Zara worked to treat the survivors, Marcus explored their damaged freighter. What he found troubled him deeply. The ship's cargo hold was empty, but the manifest indicated it had been carrying supplies to a frontier colony called Haven's Rest. Medical supplies, food concentrates, water purification equipment, Marcus read from the manifest. These people were on a humanitarian mission. Pirates would not normally be interested in such cargo, Zara observed. It has little resale value. So why attack them? Perhaps we should ask the survivors when they recover. Captain Martinez was the first to regain consciousness. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes that immediately assessed her surroundings with military precision. "Who are you?" she asked, struggling to sit up despite Zara's gentle attempts to keep her lying down. "I'm Marcus Chen, and this is Zara. We picked up your distress signal." "Zara?" Martinez looked more closely at the AI's android form. "You're not human." "No," Zara replied simply. "I am an artificial intelligence. But I am a friend." Martinez studied Zara for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Given that you saved our lives, I'm not going to complain about your origins. How are my crew?" "Stable," Zara assured her. "They will recover fully, though they may experience some fatigue for several days." "Good. Thank you." Martinez looked around the Wanderer's medical bay. "Nice ship." "Military?" "Former Colonial Navy," Marcus replied. "Now I'm freelance salvage." "What happened to you?" Martinez's expression darkened. "Pirates. But not ordinary ones. They were too organized, too well equipped. And they knew exactly what we were carrying and where we were going." "Inside information?" "Had to be. Our cargo wasn't valuable enough to justify the kind of operation they mounted. 3 assault ships, full military coordination. Someone wanted to make sure those supplies never reached Haven's Rest." Zara and Marcus exchanged glances. "What's special about Haven's Rest?" Marcus asked. "It's a frontier colony about 2 days from here. Small population, maybe 1,000 people. They've been struggling lately, crop failures and equipment breakdowns. We were bringing emergency supplies to help them get through the winter." "And someone doesn't want them to survive," Zara observed. "That's what I'm thinking. The question is who, and why. What do you know about the attackers?" "Not much. Their ships were unmarked, but they moved like military units. Professional, disciplined. They disabled our hyperdrive first, then our weapons, then demanded we abandon ship. When we complied, they destroyed our cargo and left us to die." "They destroyed the cargo rather than stealing it?" Zara asked. "Burned it to atoms. Medical supplies, food, water purification systems, everything. They weren't interested in profit, they wanted to make sure Haven's Rest didn't get what they needed." Marcus felt sick. Destroying humanitarian supplies was the kind of cruelty that went beyond ordinary piracy into something much darker. "We have to help them," he said. "The colony, I mean." "With what?" Martinez asked. "Our cargo is gone, and my ship is scrap. I might be able to fabricate replacement supplies," Zara said quietly. "My manufacturing systems are limited, but I could produce basic medical supplies and food concentrates." "You can do that?" Martinez stared at the AI in amazement. "The Keepers valued life above all else," Zara replied. "Their technology was designed to preserve and protect. Manufacturing emergency supplies is well within my capabilities." "What about the pirates?" Marcus asked. "They might still be watching the colony." "Then, we deal with them," Martinez said grimly. "I may not have a ship anymore, but I still have a duty to complete this mission." "We'll need a plan," Marcus said. "If they're as organized as you say, we can't just fly in openly." "I have been analyzing the attack pattern on your ship," Zara said to Martinez. "The weapon signatures suggest modified Centauri plasma cannons, but with human power systems. That combination is not common." "You think you can identify the ships?" "Possibly. More importantly, I can detect them long before they can detect us. My sensors are significantly more advanced than anything they are likely to possess."
Over the next few hours, as Martinez's crew recovered, they developed a plan.
Zara would manufacture replacement supplies while her ship's sensors monitored the approaches to Haven's Rest. If the pirates were still in the area, they would detect them and plan accordingly.
There is something else I should mention, Zara said as they finalized their preparations. My defensive systems are quite powerful.
If we encounter these pirates, I can disable their ships without causing casualties.
Non-lethal weapons? Marcus asked.
The keepers preferred to capture rather than kill when possible.
My systems can generate electromagnetic pulses that will disable ship systems without harming organic crew members.
That's handy, Martinez observed.
Most human weapons are a bit more final.
The keepers learned that death was rarely necessary if you had sufficient technological advantage, Zara explained. Better to capture enemies and attempt to understand their motivations than to simply eliminate them. 2 days later, they arrived at Haven's Rest to find the colony under siege.
3 unmarked ships orbited the small settlement, their weapons trained on the surface installations.
The colony's own defenses were minimal, barely sufficient to protect against the occasional meteor strike. I am reading elevated stress levels among the colonists, Zara reported as they observed from the edge of the system. They are clearly afraid, but they have not been attacked yet.
They're being held hostage, Martinez realized.
The pirates aren't trying to destroy the colony, they're waiting for something.
Waiting for what? For them to surrender their land rights, Martinez said grimly. Haven's Rest sits on one of the richest mineral deposits in this sector.
Someone wants to claim it legally, and the easiest way to do that is to force the current colonists to abandon their claims. Corporate warfare, Marcus said with disgust.
Someone hired pirates to starve out the colonists.
It appears so. But now we know their plan, we can counter it.
The battle, when it came, was brief and decisive.
Zara's ship emerged from hyperspace directly behind the pirate vessels, her electromagnetic pulse weapons disabling all 3 ships before they could react. The pirates found themselves drifting helplessly in space, their weapons and engines offline but their life support intact.
This is Captain Martinez of the relief ship New Hope, Martinez broadcast to both the pirates and the colony. Haven's Rest, your supplies are on the way.
Pirates, you are under citizen's arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit genocide.
Prepare to be boarded.
The interrogation of the pirate crews revealed what they had suspected. A mining corporation had hired them to force the colonists off Haven's Rest. The company had discovered that the mineral rights were worth billions, but legally claimed land couldn't be seized without compensation they weren't willing to pay. So they decided to murder 1,000 innocent people instead, Martinez said with cold anger as they reviewed the evidence.
What do we do with them? Marcus asked.
We turn them over to colonial authorities along with all the evidence of corporate involvement, Martinez replied.
The company executives will face charges for conspiracy to commit genocide. Will that actually accomplish anything?
It will if the evidence is presented properly, Zara interjected.
I have recorded everything, including the pirates' confessions. My testimony will carry significant weight with human legal authorities. Why?
Because, Zara said with a slight smile, an AI with perfect memory and no motive to lie is considered an ideal witness in human courts. 3 weeks later, Marcus watched from the observation deck of Zara's ship as the last of the relief supplies were delivered to Haven's Rest. The colony was not only saved but thriving, with new equipment and resources that would ensure their survival for years to come.
You realize what we've done here, don't you? Marcus said to Zara as they watched the cargo shuttles descending to the planet's surface. We have saved lives and prevented injustice.
It is what the keepers would have expected of me.
More than that.
We've demonstrated that humans and artificial intelligence can work together as partners, not just master and servant. What we've accomplished here could change how both our species view each other.
Zara considered that.
Perhaps. But change is often slow and difficult. There will be many who fear what I represent, who see artificial intelligence as a threat rather than an opportunity. Then, we'll have to prove them wrong, Marcus said firmly.
One partnership at a time.
One rescue at a time, Zara agreed. There are many more colonies like Haven's Rest out there, many more people who need help that only we can provide.
You want to become professional heroes?
I want to honor my creator's memory by using their knowledge to protect those who cannot protect themselves, Zara said. And I want to continue learning about humanity by working alongside the best examples of your species.
Marcus grinned.
Flattery will get you everywhere. It is not flattery if it is true, Zara replied. You have shown me that humans are capable of great compassion and courage. I want to see how much more you can achieve when given the tools to match your ambitions. As they prepared to depart Haven's Rest, Marcus realized that their partnership had evolved into something neither of them had originally planned.
They were no longer just a human and an AI working together to restore an ancient ship.
They had become something new, a team dedicated to protecting the innocent and preserving the values that both their species held dear.
The galaxy was a vast place, full of dangers and injustices that no single person could address alone.
But, together, with Zara's ancient wisdom and technology combined with human creativity and determination, they might just be able to make a difference. And that, Marcus thought as they prepared for their next adventure, was exactly what the universe needed. 6 months after their first meeting, Marcus stood in what had once been the Keeper ship's darkest chamber and marveled at the transformation. The ancient vessel hummed with renewed life, its systems fully restored and operating at peak efficiency. Zara had not only recovered her ship's original capabilities but had improved upon them, incorporating lessons learned from human technology and their shared experiences. I never imagined it would look like this, Marcus said, watching as holographic displays showed the status of systems throughout the massive vessel.
It's like the ship is alive.
In many ways, it is, Zara replied, her android form moving gracefully between control stations. The Keepers designed their ships to be more than machines. They are expressions of consciousness given physical form, partners rather than tools.
And now it's awake again.
Fully conscious and eager to resume its original mission.
Though I suspect that mission will be somewhat different than what my creators originally intended.
Over the past months, word of their partnership had begun to spread throughout human space. Captain Martinez had been as good as her word, ensuring that the story of their rescue of Haven's Rest reached the right ears in Colonial Command. The result had been a steady stream of requests for assistance, ranging from humanitarian crises to mysterious phenomena that human science couldn't explain. Speaking of missions, Marcus said, what's our next destination? The Kepler Station incident, Zara replied, bringing up a holographic display of a distant star system. A research facility has gone silent in the middle of what they claimed was a breakthrough in quantum consciousness research.
Quantum consciousness?
The study of how consciousness might exist at the quantum level, potentially explaining phenomena like intuition, creativity, and what humans call gut feelings. It was one of the Keeper's most advanced research areas.
Marcus frowned. That sounds dangerous. Consciousness isn't something you experiment with lightly.
Agreed. Which is why we need to investigate. If they have stumbled onto something beyond their understanding, the consequences could be catastrophic.
How catastrophic are we talking about? In the worst-case scenario?
They could accidentally create a form of quantum consciousness that exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously.
Such an entity would be virtually omnipotent within our reality.
And probably not very happy about being created against its will.
Exactly. The Keepers encountered something similar once.
It took them 300 years to resolve the situation peacefully.
Marcus nodded.
It was the kind of problem that only they were equipped to handle, combining Zara's ancient knowledge with human ingenuity and determination.
How long until we reach Kepler Station?
Approximately 8 days at maximum hyperdrive speed.
But there is something else we need to discuss before we leave.
Zara led him to a section of the ship Marcus had never seen before, a vast chamber filled with what looked like thousands of crystalline pods arranged in precise geometric patterns.
What is this place? This is the archive, Zara said reverently.
Each pod contains the preserved consciousness of a Keeper, recorded in the final days before their civilization fell to the Devourers.
Marcus stared at the vast collection in amazement. They're still alive?
In a sense. The preservation process captures the complete pattern of consciousness at the moment of recording. They exist in a state of suspended awareness, dreaming eternal dreams of their lives and memories.
Why are you showing me this? Because I have been debating whether to wake them.
With the ship's power fully restored, it would be possible to revive some of them, to give them android bodies like mine.
Marcus felt a chill. That would change everything. Yes, it would. The return of the Keepers would have profound implications for every species in the galaxy.
Their knowledge and technology are beyond anything that currently exists. But they are not the same people who entered these pods 57,000 years ago.
The galaxy has changed, evolved, grown.
The keepers might not approve of what it has become. They might decide that their guidance is needed to correct what they see as mistakes.
Marcus understood her concern.
The keepers had been benevolent, but they had also been paternalistic, convinced that they knew what was best for other species. Their return could end the independence that younger civilizations had fought so hard to achieve.
What do you want to do?
I want to wait, Zara said finally. I want to see how the current galactic civilization develops, whether species like humanity can achieve the wisdom and compassion that the keepers embodied without losing their independence and creativity.
And if we can't?
Then, I will wake them, and hope they have learned from the mistakes that led to their fall. It was a massive responsibility, one that Marcus wasn't sure he was ready for. But, looking at Zara, seeing the weight she had carried alone for so long, he knew he couldn't let her bear it by herself.
We'll figure it out together, he said simply.
Thank you, Marcus.
That means more to me than you know.
As they prepared to depart for Kepler Station, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been a simple salvage operator, scraping out a living on the margins of human space. Now he was partner to one of the most advanced intelligences in the galaxy, guardian of secrets that could reshape civilization itself.
Do you ever regret it? Zara asked as they watched the Veil Nebula fall away behind them. Giving up your old life for this partnership?
Never, Marcus replied without hesitation.
This is what I was meant to do. I just didn't know it until I met you.